healing is loud, truth is sacred, and your story matters.
Hi, and thank you for joining us for season 3 of the HerPsychology series, where this year we're going to be kicking it off with a Choose Better series about a journal that I just wrote, Choose Better. And it is a 90-day self-dating journal where you can date yourself to see if you're ready to even date someone else. I do have a special guest on the show for today. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what platforms they can see you on.
You can catch me on Facebook at Jimmy Darnell Fraser Jr. and also on TikTok at Mr. Stilo 2, which also goes by DaPrototype.
Formerly known as
Formerly
DaPrototype.
known as the Prototype.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And again, this is going to be our first episode. We're going to be breaking down the Choose Better 90-day journal companion, where you will take the self-assessment, follow the journal for 90 days, just dating yourself exclusively, just to see if you are dateable. And not only can women take the test, men can also take the test, which is why we have Jimmy here on the show, giving us the male perspective of what he has found in the book. You can maybe share some of the things that you've learned and just what you found out about yourself so far from just going through the book. I don't know how long you've had it, but I remember the first day I opened it up, and I'm the one that wrote it, I was just really reading some of these questions, asking them to myself, because when I was compiling the self-assessment, I wasn't really thinking about the questions that I would have to answer for myself as somebody who is not dating. You get what I'm saying? So once I actually got the book and I started just going through it, seeing what I could change before I actually published the final version, I was like, wow, this is me. Wow, I didn't know that about myself. Wow, I really have to think about this. So we're going to jump right into the 20 questions. I'm going to tell you what sections they actually cover in our lives. And then if you found that in the book or you want to address something in the book, we can definitely do that. We're going to jump right in. So my first question is, would you date yourself being who you are right now as of today? Why or why not?
To answer that question, would I date myself as who I am right now? Probably not. I wouldn't. In interest because of probably because, to be honest with you, because of financial status right now. I feel like I want to be more equipped to take on a family in case I find someone that come with more than themselves. At the moment, I probably wouldn't date myself because of my financial leverage on a relationship right now. I would want to be more financially stable to be suitable for help me.
So let me ask you a question, one that I think would be logical for a man who considers himself logical. Now, I don't know if you consider yourself a logical man or not, so I'm just saying men in general. But if you do, attack this question and the answer to this question for me. If you would not date, based on your own assessment, today the man that you are because of your financial means, why would you pursue a woman and expect her to date you if you yourself would not date yourself?
I'm taking it as a general question. I probably would say that. I'm sorry. Can you ask the question again? I kind of got lost in my thought. I'm sorry.
If you yourself would not date the person that you are today based on your financial means, this is not breaking you down in any bad way, saying you're a bad person. This is speaking specifically from what you spoke on, which was your finances. And if you yourself are saying that you would not date yourself in the financial situation that you're in, why would you then approach a woman and expect her to date you in the financial situation that you're in if you yourself wouldn't even date you?
Okay, that's a good question. Most of the time, if I try to pursue a woman in this moment right here, it probably wouldn't be in regards to pursue them as a potential partner, knowing that my financial stability is not handled correctly. So in the means of me approaching a woman at this point, it would probably be just to see where I'm at on my timeline to make sure that I'm still handling my mental spaces at my best ability.
So let me ask you a question. When you say on your timeline, are you speaking specifically on that timeline with that woman because you already know her and you know what she's kind of looking for? Or are you speaking your timeline in life? Let me get out here and see how I can pursue her, and let me see how much time I got to play around.
Oh, dang. When I say my timeline, I'm just speaking directly to a seasonal based thing. I evaluate myself seasonally to make sure that I'm still being rational in my decisions.
Where you are right now and what you're doing right now in your life, would you say that that's getting you closer to your financial status, or are you saying you haven't even scratched the surface? You're still kind of stunted in that department.
Um, I feel like my financial setting is capable to take on a relationship, but I want to be more overly. I want to be more equipped to take on just in case of a rainy day.
Okay. So I like that you started off with finances because I'm going to speak for finances from my perspective, right? I am a woman that was married and had a 17-year stay-at-home husband. I was the breadwinner. That was not the issue in our relationship. That is not why we're not together. So let me put that out there first. It had nothing to do with what he made. When we met each other, he actually made more than me. He actually had a degree. And he went into business for himself. And when that didn't work out, nothing else did he pursue. Me, I was steadily pursuing things. It was never an issue, finances. So once he decided that he wasn't going to go back and work for anyone else, I wasn't going to be not motivated to do and get my degree in the things that I wanted to do. And so I continued to do that in the capacity to where I am today. And so from my perspective, if I'm dating someone and I know that I myself am not financially stable or where I want to be able to assist my partner, having been the entire breadwinner, paying the bills for a long time, I'm not even going to date, because if that person falls for me and decides they want to marry me, and my boundary is that my finances must be where they can be, I would not put myself in a position to be fallen for, because that is how we as people, not just men or women, create certain circumstances in our life. We already know what we're dealing with going into it, and we'll still step into it, expecting a different result. For me, if I know my finances are not where they need to be, I'm going to focus on getting my finances where they need to be, and I'm going to decenter that, because I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of times we strive to get things in life that don't even suit us. You're not striving for the money just for yourself. You're striving for the money for family, the pursuit of the woman that you feel like you're going to be able to settle with, the children that you're going to be able to have, the lifestyle. It's not just for you. So if you're going to do it and you're going to benefit it, you have to pursue it in a way where it's going to benefit you even when ain't nobody else around. Does that make sense?
It made perfect sense.
What is the common denominator in all of your past relationships?
Such as fail, or how it failed, or coming to like the type of person that I go after.
I think this question is more so centered around issues. So if you had to go through every relationship and you had to sit with yourself, not point the fingers, me being me, you being you, but not together anymore. I'm sitting in a room. What did I do wrong? And everything I did wrong has nothing to do with you. Then I have self-assessed myself. But if I'm sitting in my room and I'm thinking about what I did wrong, and I said, well, I only did that because she, well, I only did that because he, then I'm not self-assessing me. I'm still trying to figure out a way to say they caused my behavior. So what is the common denominator in your past relationships that you yourself have actually sat and assessed and said, you know what, I really was the problem?
I would say the common denominator is misunderstanding from both sides. To be understood in the best way possible. It was I would say that would be the most common denominator in most of my my situations, my unionships. Um, Believing that I had all the answers at an early age because um my all my previous relationships were happening at a earlier age. I only had one relationship in my adult years, so I would have to say the common denominator. I would base them off two things. That would be age and misrepresentation.
Okay, so before I go any further and ask you about the age and misrepresentation, just remind me to do so. I would like to point something out to you that you did that I was very specific on. And I like that you are showing me this right now so that we both can break it down together. I said, what is the common denominator in your past relationships of something you did that you have sat back and self-reflected on and said that, I really was the problem. And you came back and said, I believe it was on us both. I'm going to turn on another hat and I'm going to say, we're in a session and I'm having a conversation with you. And then I say, hey, Jimmy, what do you think you did wrong in your relationship that caused all of them to end? That had to do with maybe traits, flaws, ways, finances, attitude. All those things are similar in one another versus the finance, except the finances, I'm sorry. What could you pick out of that that does not include anyone else and it only includes you?
Um, I have to say the last part what I said how I misrepresented myself. I meant well, but I took things in different perspectives due to what I wanted, due to trauma.
That's great. The reason why I said take it back to what you have done is because you really can't fix anybody else's behavior. If you're trying to move forward and you're no longer in that relationship, when you speak to somebody else about your your shortcomings and your downfalls, it should strictly be on you because at this point it's just you. So there's no need to reach back and say, well, yesteryear, yesteryear is gone, and you're dealing with you right now because now you're a better person. You're not the prototype no more. You're Jimmy, and your name means something. So you got to stand on it. So that means you got to take you and you only, because at the end of the day, you are only responsible for who? You
So
and how you are represented. I'm going to share something from a female's perspective. I use the word woman, but I'm speaking as a female. One of the things that I can say from reading this book, and I've known this about myself for a very long time, but just reading the book and having to actually go through the self-assessment is that I am I can be very stubborn, and I'm really not even trying to be stubborn. When you are defiant because something has happened in your life and you hold that defiance in every single aspect of your life, even when the people that you're dealing with haven't done anything to you, that's a form of stubbornness. Because I do believe that you can have a conversation with someone and say what you want to say in a less harsher tone and still come across the same way. And this isn't about me tone policing anybody. I'm just saying that sometimes delivery does make a difference. That doesn't mean that we have to coddle. And that doesn't mean that you have to be abrasive in your approach and in your tone, but delivery, I do feel it does make a difference. And so sometimes I can be very stubborn because I'm a very direct person. And because things have happened to me in my life, I have to be direct. I have to tell you what I mean what I say, and that's what I need you to do. That's the role that I kind of play in life. That's just who I am. I'm always going to be that person. And I'm not willing to compromise that because I fought hard to be this person. However, I am willing to understand and know that not everybody receives that demeanor the same. And when you are dealing with someone, you should be able to see, okay, I can be this way with her because she has shown me this, or I can be this way with him because he has shown me this. You know what? I ain't gonna even try it over here. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. That's how men are in relationships. That's how they are. That's exactly, man. I can't even play with her. I gotta come right. Oh man, she'll push over. Man, all I gotta do is buy her a cell phone. You know, that's how men approach women, and that's how we as women should approach our thoughts. So, what red flags do you let slide in a relationship? Flags wave, hey, danger, danger.
Yeah, are you asking that from my point, like from myself, or the things that I allow and this or not allow for myself or the other person?
Was what you wouldn't allow to happen to you.
The red flags that I wouldn't let happen to me, or let's see, depending on what type of person I'm dealing with at that moment, I would say that a person that does well with information. If that person shows that they doesn't handle information well, that's one of the biggest red flags. And also a person that gaslights, um, they'll be the two biggest red flags that I will have to put to the wayside.
Absolutely. I'm gonna say those are my two. The gaslighting is gonna come first because you ain't even getting no information if you're doing that.
Yep.
So I would have to say those are
Yeah.
my two.
Gaslighting, y'all. Gaslighting, it'll have to be. It'll have to be. I think it's kind of those are both interchangeable. Um, but yeah, those two will be both of the red flags that I can just point out.
Have you ever been in a relationship with someone or had a friend? Because everything doesn't have to be relationship based when it talks about choosing better. So I wanted to go over the self-assessment in the book that since you have it in your hand. And I'm going to ask you some questions and you give me some answers. And then you can ask me some questions about on the self-assessment and I'll give you some answers. You can also go through the if you would like, we have time to do a couple of the relationship beliefs. I think these are good questions. So like the ones that say self-assessment for relationship beliefs, politics, life shared roles like gender roles and things like that, like being independent and things like that. So I think it's a great assessment to actually go through for yourself just to see where it applies to you in your life. Like I'm not a marrying type. I've been married. It was great because I am a long-term relationship type person, but I don't have to be married to you. Does that make sense?
Purpose.
We don't even have to live together. You can live at your house. I'm going to live at mine. And then we can date and, all of that. But I feel like I'm about to be 52 in June. So at the age that I am now, I don't really want no man in my space like that. So when I was taking this assessment, I was like, because it asked, do you like to be alone? And the answer to that question would be yes for me, because I like my space. But that's neither here nor there. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I know I got to compromise some things. So I was looking at the things on the self-assessment that I feel like I could compromise if I were to get into a relationship that were going to lead to marriage. So I'm going to go on the strengths to ask my question of you first. Are you resilient after you face a hardship?
I'll say yes, because I label myself as a fixer. So I'll say I definitely am resilient. Um, because when it comes to adversity, I feel like that's my superpower. I get a chance to assess myself on the things that I did wrong and the things that I did right, and I try to mix it together to come up with a perfect blend of what I can do if adversity comes up and show itself again.
So I can relate to that because I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life from the age of 4. I got kidnapped off the street with my brother walking to the store, to some other things that kind of happened to me along the way where I faced trauma. And so a lot of times I feel like I have a superpower too to be able to get through anything that life throws at me. But I also know that that is a trauma response, which means that somewhere in my life, your life, we experienced something that told us we had to be that way. And so we took that upon, and that's just how we are. Because if you're ever at a point where your nervous system is not in a relaxed state and you always feel like you're just surviving, I do that to this day. I'm not going to lie. Uh, I'm very much into reading my energy and knowing what I feel like is complacent in me that's not going to work with someone else. So I'm very self-aware in a way that, you know what, a man that will stand in front of me and look me in my face and lie to me will kill me. Tell me the truth before you lie. And don't assume that I will not be able to handle the truth. You just need to be able to handle the consequences. Because I might kill you or I might kiss you. It just really depends on what it is.
That's real.
But because you're lying, you take away my choice to trust you. Because you've already assumed, oh, she's not going to be able to deal with the fact that I lie. How do you know that if you have not tried to tell me? What you're really afraid of is you may lose her. But that's a consequence to what you did. She's not guaranteed to stay. And it does not mean she couldn't handle the truth. What it means is that she saw your truth and decided, okay, at least he told me this isn't for me. So do you have
Yeah, I want
a
to
question for
come
me?
from. Yeah, I want to come from things I can change.
Ooh.
Based off of what you just said, I want to go to the one that say I can say no without explanation. How you feel about that?
I'll be honest with you. I like that. That's why I put it there. I am definitely that person. I am not a person who asks people a lot of questions. So don't you ask me a lot of questions. That's just in relationships. If you feel like you don't have to tell me something, then understand I lead from what you do. I ain't gonna tell you nothing either. I may give you the bare minimum. Hey, I'm going to the store. But let's say that store is closed and they didn't have what I wanted and I wanted to travel across town. I may not call you and say, hey, I went to this store and they didn't have what I wanted. So now I'm traveling across town because I'm used to you telling me one thing and then doing something else. So now I'm feeding off your energy. And whereas we started in a relationship where I was telling you everything, now it's going to me telling you what I want you to know. And now it's going to me telling you only what you asked me. And if you don't ask me nothing, then I'm not going to tell you anything. Because that's usually how it goes in relationships. When you first met that woman, she was all happy to tell you everything. Oh, prototype. Every day. She had something that she shared with you. Then the next thing you know, she was barely talking. You like, hey man, you coming home? What's wrong with you? This morning you was laughing and playing. We was all good. And right now you're like you want to kill me. And then you sitting there eating 3 days later, she just running, baby, out of the blue. Now she got something to tell you. That is a sign of the chaos in the relationship that's not being addressed. So I can tell you no without an explanation if you tell me no without an explanation. That's how I feel about that.
That's respectable. I like that because I'm the same way, honestly. I feel like I said, when you asked me about the red flags, when I said that my pet peeve is a person that doesn't do well with information, right? So I feel like to instill something in somebody that doesn't do well with information, it's best for me sometimes to withhold my questioning or my rebuttal to a person's actions. So yeah, I feel the same way when when that came across. I was like, yeah, I feel that.
So let me ask you this. When you say don't do well with information, I want to, and I'm not saying that you don't, but I do have to ask this question because it's important. Have you relayed that information to the best of your ability? This is not making you accountable for them not hearing you. This is me just asking you because sometimes we think we've said something clear and it's not. It's clear to you as a man because men think different from women. Just like when a woman tells a man something, it's clear to her. He didn't get it though. So in mansplaining it to her, do you feel that you were clear enough that those persons should have processed that information?
To answer that question directly, I'll take full accountability to say that it's a firm possibility that sometimes the information will be kind of kind of slurred. But however, I feel like if it's some kind of wedge in between what we were saying, they got a full breakdown of what I said because it's a what can I say? It's a, how would I put it? In the middle of in the midst of the conversation, if they feel a type of way about what's being said, I would honestly say that I think they kind of know where it stems from, if that makes
I
sense.
would disagree. I would disagree.
Hmm.
The key word is that you feel. What you feel
Hmm.
don't matter. What's the fact? What's the facts? Was it clear or was it not clear? And let's just move on. Because if it wasn't
Hmm.
clear, tell me again. Now I got it. We good? I'll execute. Let's move on. But when you walk away saying, I feel, what you are saying is it doesn't matter if that person got it or not. You feel they did, so you're going to keep going. And that's unfair.
Okay. In my head, I understand exactly what you're saying. But I want to ask you that for to get clarity, right? Um, like from the point of view that I'm speaking from, it's like majority of the times they'll bring up the situation on um where they don't do well with the information. So they already assess the situation in their own lenses, and then they bring it to me. Um, so at that point, I feel like it's solely on what they're saying. But I also get what you're saying. Like if I relate a message to them in a kind of slurred way, um, do I take accountability for that? In that aspect, I do. But however, if they bring the conversation to me, I feel that sometimes they can kind of pivot away from the truth. Not to call anybody delusional, but they kind of look at it in a delusional way, for the lack of better
So
words.
I guess what I'm hearing you saying that sometimes when the information is being presented, it's already diluted. And so you're having to pick apart what is actually being said that may not be the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I get that. And in that sense, I understand what you're saying, but I still stand on you need to know. I still stand on I feel is not an answer. It's an opinion, it's your feeling, but it's not the truth. Should it be recognized? Actually, because I would be the type of person, okay, well, just explain to me why you feel that way. Let's pick apart why you have that feeling. And then if you explain it to me good enough, I can say, you know what, you're right. I should have said when you told me you wanted ice cubes, you weren't specific, but because I see you drink the crushed kind of ice cubes, I guess I should have just gone off what you normally do. That means that
Mm,
person is paying attention to you and that person is being aware. So sometimes a partner can foresee what you're really trying to say without you having to say it. I am very observant of people, so I'm able to do that. Not everybody is going to do that. And so that's why I feel is not an answer. You need to know. Because what I would do in that situation, because I am channeling you and I'm paying attention to you, reading your energy, I watch your ways, I'm paying attention to you because you are who I'm with. Everybody is not that focused on their partner. Some stuff is just surface level. We're not even deep with it. It's here for a short time, maybe a good one, but it's a short time. And so we as people, when we are dating, you have to be able to pick up on that. That's
mm,
not anybody else's job to do. So that's why I say take I feel out of it, because at this point, it really doesn't matter what you feel. What is the fact? Did they
mm,
understand you so that you can come to the conclusion that they just don't even care? Or did they really understand you because it was kind of blurred? Maybe they didn't. Let me go back to them. And then
mm,
if they that information this time to the best of my ability and they still didn't get it, then I'm going to have to say it's user error at that point. Because
mm.
if you talk to
Can
somebody all
I?
the time, be honest, they know how you talk. That's why I use the last analogy that I just used. I'm gonna be able to know that that's what you, because I talk to you and I deal with you all the time. But if it just wasn't clear, then it just wasn't clear. That's two different things.
Mm. Can I provide an example? Well,
Absolutely.
this situation.
Hmm.
Um, okay. I'm gonna start with this. I told you that I haven't been in a relationship in like 7 to 8 years. But I tried two, one in 2020 and one in 2024. The one in 2024, it was more based on the premise of this conversation, right? So I'm not really into dating. I kind of I not to say I kind of I articulated myself in a way that I thought would be suitable for this person. So it came down to I had a friend that is a woman. She she called and gave me ideas for my podcast, right? However, it was a woman that I was entertaining as a friend. She seen me as a potential partner, but in the time I wasn't really trying to pursue a relationship. However, um, we intertwined in a more intimate way, I'm guessing, that made her act the way she act. However, it was this one particular time that the other lady that helped me with the podcast, she called while I was on the phone with my friend. So I told her to hold on, and she got mad because I told her to hold on. And I'm guessing that she kind of figured out who it was. So when the other lady called me, she was telling me about her friend guy that went to jail that night, and she was telling me critiques on her podcast. So when I clicked over the woman that I was considering to be a potential partner, um she took it the wrong way when I told her that it's just my friend and she's been here longer than you, and that she helped me with my podcast from time to time. So do you feel like I articulated it in a wrong way, or I did?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. So let me tell you the first thing that you did that was wrong, and that set the tone for the entire situation. You went into the situation pretending to be something that you were not to please her, though, and so that became her expectation of you. It went wrong right there. Forget everything else that happened after that. Just forget it, because there ain't no point in talking about it. You did that. When you started dating someone and you felt like you wanted to present what you thought she wanted, you set in her mind an expectation that she was getting what she wanted. You did that going in. So anything that happened after that, just throw it in the trash. It doesn't matter. You did it. You got to be accountable for it and move on. It happened. You admitted it. You said, I went into the situation, her unknowingly, to be something that she wanted because I thought that's what she wanted. She ain't had nothing to do with that. You set the tone. So everything that happened after that is on you. Because if you would have just presented yourself as the person that you were in the first place, I don't think it would have been an issue. I think you presented yourself to her as somebody that I could see as a partner. And then love came into play, feelings came into play, and then jealousy came into play. But if it were me, and I'm putting myself into the situation as someone who's dated, I dated a guy for an entire, I think, year and a half as strictly platonic. It was a sexual relationship, which wound up being my husband. But I'll tell you a short story. When we first got together and started dating, both of us said we didn't want to be in a relationship. And one day someone came to town, one of his family members, you know, men, they like to show out, but I do too. So his cousin came into town and he was like, I don't want to talk to you right now. I said, okay, click, hung up. And I went about my day, went about my life for the next 3 days, acting as if though I didn't even know who he was. I went out with my friends, family came in town, and I was having a blast. And then one day my phone rang, and it was him. And he said, why haven't I heard from you? And I said, because you told me that you didn't feel like talking to me. So I was waiting for you to feel like it. And I figured that when you did, you give me a call. And guess what? Here you are. Hi, how are you? And he was like, well, what you been doing? Da, 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 da. I said, why are you asking me all of these questions as if though you are my boyfriend? And he said, because I am. That's how we got into a relationship. Because I'm not getting ready to play with anybody's son. But you have to be able to read those things going in. Sometimes you can just be yourself, like me and him. We were just being ourselves, and then he caught feelings. And I too had feelings for him after dating him for an entire year. We were very close. He was my best friend. But at the same time, he said he didn't want to have a relationship, and I was obliging him by what he said. And when he caught feelings, instead of him just simply saying to me, I have feelings for you, let's be in a relationship, he tried to show out and it backfired. Then he had to come and let me know what was up. And I was like, okay, cool. You could have been did this.
In my
For
head, let's it that in my head it sounds similar to what went on with this young lady right here. Like at first I led with telling her that I'm not mentally and financially ready for a relationship, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that I'm not capable for to make it work right, but just not being in the space that I'd rather be at. And it like but as time grew, it just felt like we got closer and closer. And and with men, if like I know it differs from women, right? Well, it might not, but in layman terms, it is. Like if we say something, we will expect that a deal is be signed if it's agreed upon. Because if I say that I don't want to be in a relationship, and you don't want to be in a relationship, we feel as men that we made a pact, and that should be not interchangeable. So for the insert yourself into somebody's life forcefully, I do feel like both people have to be accountable. How you feel about it?
So this is what I would say about that. The person that was deceptive is the person that needs to be accountable for everything that went wrong. Because you misrepresented yourself from the jump. Forget about everything else about, okay, let's say this. You misrepresented yourself. You started a relationship with her. You said, hey, I just want to be friends. But you misrepresented go back to the beginning. You did not start off as who you are saying, what you're saying right now. You started off as a whole, you started off as the prototype, and then you Jimmy over here. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Not. I
You
mean,
started off one person, and then you developed into who you really were. The prototype was your pseudonym, and Jimmy is who you are.
can
You
you break
turned
it
into
down a little
Jimmy.
bit? Can you break it
So
down for me?
yeah. So in layman's terms, let me hope that this is layman's terms. You started off as your representative, which is the prototype. You yourself said, I didn't ask you this question. I did not pick you for this question. You volunteered it. You yourself said, when I started into this relation with her, I presented myself as someone who I thought she wanted. There goes the problem. You started off as the prototype, and eventually you morphed into Jimmy. I'm going to do what I want to do. This is a situationship. I've already told you we're not together. I should be able to talk to whatever girl I want to talk to. We had an agreed upon contract. But you did not take into account the feelings that she grew for you when she thought you was the prototype, and now you're Jimmy. That's that's what I'm saying to you.
No,
You
I
weren't
get it.
Jimmy at the start. You were not Jimmy. You were the prototype. Hey, I'm with it. Let's be down.
I get it, but I just don't see it like that. When
You know what you have? You have a problem with being wrong, and it's okay. You're wrong. You asked me, and I told you. That's it. We ain't got to discuss it no more. You were wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. Are you still with her now?
we never really got in a relationship. We just
Or are you still
was
dealing with her?
we're cordial. We're cordial because
even after you saw these red flags in her that she's showing some signs of jealousy, you're still trying to have some form of a relationship with her by using the word cordial. Why even bother when that person has already, now that y'all know who each other is, y'all already know now. Why not just leave them alone and stop further damaging something that you will walk away at some point, not even being friends anymore? If you know this girl
Because
wants to be with you.
I think I was a placeholder. I don't really think that she really wanted a relationship. I just was a placeholder at the moment. And I feel like I do most of my, not most, I do all of my relationships like that, whether it be a male or female. Um I try not to burn bridges because I feel like if the universe brought us in the midst of each other, I feel like it's purposeful. And I understand that a lot of situations be transactional and seasonal, but I feel like it also, you don't have to leave on bad terms with someone. So that's why I use the word cordial. If we have to come into a conversation, it won't be no bad blood if we have to speak to each other.
So can I ask you a question I think is vital? And I ask this question to a lot of men. I asked it to women too, but I'm talking to a man. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. I am very unbiased to the man or the woman. I'm going to hold everybody accountable. But for this conversation, um, do you think that it's more of the universe that wants to keep that person there, or is it more of that abandonment issue that a lot of people carry because we've lost people? And so when we find somebody that is familiar to us, we want to hold on to that person. And even if it has some type of dysfunction or some toxicity to it, it is familiar, because this is what I do know about the universe. The universe delivers us our children. And even at some point in time in life, we have to let them go. My children have been very purposeful in my life. They have groomed me and grown me into the woman that I am today. And even with that being the case, at some point, they're going to go off and live their lives. And I'm going to have to let them go. And they will still serve their purpose because they will be the reasons why I am still alive. Being a 2-time breast cancer survivor, being almost murdered and left for dead. Everything else that I've gone through, which is way more than that. They have been the reason why I have fought to get to where I am now. So I'm not going to assume that a person that I have no romantic interest in being with them in a permanent stance because of my financial status or whatever the case may be, if we're really being honest, she's a placeholder to you too. You both are the same thing to each other because you're mirroring each other right now. You both have some healing that needs to be done. And I don't even have to know her or you that well. Of course, I do know you, but I don't know all of your story. But to know that, because I think you're very intelligent. I tell you this all the time. We talk all the time, and I tell you that. And I say, I think a lot of the thing that hinders you from being able to speak the way that you want to speak and be understood is that a lot of times you cannot deliver the wording the way that you would like to deliver it. And I say, fuck it, say that shit. Who is meant for it is going to receive it. Everybody can't be prim and proper to get their message across. And that's not to say don't try. That's not what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is sometimes it's just best to be your genuine self. And those of us who need to receive the message will. And that would be for those that it's meant for. But I don't think it's the universe. I think it is trauma that holds people in certain places, especially when we know down the line that person serves no purpose for them. I am a woman that does not have any real female friends. I have women in my life that I have called family now because they've been in my life for so long, 20 and 30 years, and they started off as friends. But I don't have people around me that serve no purpose in my life. And if you come into my life and you cannot leave it better than I found you, then there's no point in you being in my life. I don't just hold on to people just because I want to be cordial with them. I don't care about being cordial to anybody that's not going to serve any type of purpose in my life. If the stranger on the street I'm never going to meet again come over here and I fail to say hi, which I'm always a hospitable person, I say hi, but let's say I fail to say it. Am I missing anything from that interaction 20 years down the line? just because I wasn't cordial. How many other people did I speak to that day, and that one person that I missed? And so I think that if you're already having situations where the friendship is at jeopardy because another woman that is a friend, and then even with what you said to her, it was almost like, that's my friend, she been around, she gonna be here, so yeah, you take it or leave it. That's all that was in a nutshell. Real cute. It was real cute.
Oh,
That was
no,
that
wait a
was real
minute.
cute. That was real cute, but no. Mm-mm. I think that the hole that you are standing in, you dug it when you was the prototype, and now you Jimmy. You should have just been Jimmy from the beginning. I met you with the name the prototype, but I knew Jimmy way back when, because we've had conversations. I don't even need the fluff. Just give it to me. And I think that if you present yourself like that more often, I think you'll be fine. I don't think you need to be nobody but who you are. Because you go vibe. Like, for real, you a real vibe. I be watching you just vibing out. And I be like, man, he a real vibe. He don't know it, though. You feel me?
Yeah,
I'm serious. I'm serious. Like, you're a real vibe. You ain't got to do none of that. You could just be yourself. And like I said, who is meant to receive it, they gonna receive it. And who is not meant for to have it, they won't have it. But that's not your job to try to say who gonna receive me. That's not for you to do. Everybody don't receive me, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, I ain't for everybody, and I know that. And that's what you got to think in your mind. But anytime you go into a situation where you got to start being something else to make somebody feel comfortable with who they are, it's a problem. And you need to recognize it and abandon ship quickly. That's not right. Okay, I think let's go to truth moments. Have you ever been, I want to go first. Have you ever been the toxic one in a relationship?
That's a good question. That's a very, very good question. Oh, is you saying that being the primary toxic person, or I mean, in my younger years, I have to say yes. Mostly in my younger years, yes, because back in the days, you have to lead a certain way for the to be noticed. So I say yes. I had to be toxic for to get a certain caliber woman in that aspect. Yeah, so I say yes. I have.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to admit, absolutely, I am the toxic person. You know, I know that I have an element of toxicity to me, whether it is something that I'm doing intentionally or whether it's something I'm not, because there are men that I draw into me that are nothing like I would ever even. If I met you on the street somewhere, I'll be afraid of you. But if I met you in a certain type of setting, I would be okay with you. I think that sometimes when you have gone through traumatic experiences, you still hold a little bit of that energy. And so you kind of draw broken people into you sometimes, and you can be a natural healer just by your energy alone. Some people change simply because of the energy, that you know how somebody walk into a room and then the whole atmosphere change. People are like that. And I'm not saying that they're going to come into your life and heal you per se, because I don't think that's their job. What I'm saying is sometimes people just possess that energy to kind of make that change. And a lot of the times I get into relationships, I know in my past, I dated a lot of bad boys. I'm just saying. I dated some bad boys, and I know dag nabbit well that I shouldn't have been with them, because my mother was a minister, my father was a minister. I was definitely a preacher's kid, but I definitely dated a lot of bad boys in my early 20s growing up. I was really attracting all of the drug dealers. I mean, I'm serious. And I think about that now, and I'm like, them type of men don't even approach me now. But back in the day, that's what I understood that there was a certain element of energy that I was carrying around that was drawing that into me, because past my 30s and up, I've not been drawn to anything like that. And it's not been drawn to me. It must be real top secret if you're doing it. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's not like that. I date career men who have like actual careers and things. So totally not what I was in my 20s, you know. They was doing whatever. And it didn't matter.
Yeah,
So I would have to
I can
say
relate
I
to
have
that.
been the toxic person. You know, I've been the toxic person in a relationship before, and I don't think it was anything that I'm not. I wasn't fighting and doing things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I had some type of energy that I walked around with in my younger years, because it really drew those type of men, the type of men that I would even look at twice now. I wouldn't even be like at all. I would just be like this. Still scared that energy is on me, and I'm trying to, I don't even draw those type of men in anymore. So I do, when people say sometimes you have to look at yourself and see what it is that you're doing that's drawing those people in, I believe that to be true because I've experienced that. Because I'm not experiencing it now. After I did the self-work and everything that I needed to do to go through the proper channel of healing myself, and healing is continual, it didn't stop. But I notice now that I'm vibrating a little bit higher than what I was then, because the type of people that are coming into my energy are high vibrational people. They're so positive, and you can learn so much from them. You guys share the same values. Your moral compass is aligned. So when I talk about high vibration, I'm not even talking about money or none of that. I'm talking about the substance that you have inside. And the type of men that I used to draw in when I was younger, they didn't have it, but the men that I do now, they do. So I think that, again, when people say you have to pay attention to what's going on with you, I believe that to be true. That's why I'm telling you, when you start off in a situation and you're not being yourself, you're being a false entity, everything is going to go wrong because it's built on lies. But if you started out just being genuine yourself, because you got to live with you for the rest of your life. And what's going to happen when you pretend to be somebody, get into a relationship with a woman you really love, and then you turn out to be Jimmy, you're not the prototype, and she leave you, then what you going to do?
Oh man, this is a good question. I try my best to lead with my best foot now. So I always try to lead with Jimmy right now. However, like you said, I still have some of that residual energy from the past me in me. However, I do feel like I'm more equipped now to notice what's going on in the engagement. And you, like what you said, what you went through with the bad boys and stuff like that, I also went through with I used to like quote unquote hood women. But I had to like every woman I ever dated was basically street minded, I'll say. And they knew how to move, you know what I'm saying? They knew how to move amongst themselves. You ain't had to explain too much to them. But I knew that it was kind of weighing me down for the person that I needed to be in this moment right now. It also shaped and molded me into the person to be sapio. I was more tethered to a woman's body and what they can do. Now I'm more
Mhm.
tethered to their mindset and their beliefs and things of that nature.
That's good. That's growth. What do you think about, well, no, let me ask you this. What does choosing yourself daily actually look like for you as a man?
Choosing myself daily as a man looks like making a fine perimeter around my needs and wants and my essentials. It also looking like making boundaries um for the peoples that I love and the people that I don't care to befriend. Um it also looks like doing the things that my inner child wants me to do. I say I lead with that. Um, there'll be the best way for me to sum it up. Catering to my inner child.
I would agree with that. I would say this. The very first time I lived by myself alone, I was 46 years old because I've been a mom since I was 16 and I've had a spouse. And so I've always lived with my children or the person that I'm in a relationship with. And so when I moved to Las Vegas for the first time, I talk about how my son was still with his father, and I was sitting in the room and the walls were just closing in. And then I had an epiphany that I've never even lived by myself before. And I'm 46 years old. That is crazy, you know? And at that point, I had to think of things to do because I'd only ever been a mom and somebody's wife. So now I got to think about what are you going to do outside of working, being somebody's mom, being somebody's wife? What do you like? I've always been a writer, so I knew writing was one of my things. But when I was married, it was blocked for so long, I just could not write. There was just a lot going on, medical issues and just different things like that. And I just could not write. And so once I left that relationship and was able to sit in the house by myself after going to therapy for the first time ever in life, after everything that I've gone through, I learned to understand that discipline is very necessary when you are trying to actually choose yourself and the things that you want to be able to do in life. Because at that point, you have to become very selfish and think about yourself. And for me as a parent, that is very hard to do because I'm going to always be worrying about what they're doing and what I'm doing. But years later, coming upon 52, because I was at 46, I don't really worry about anyone but myself anymore. I only care about myself when I wake up in the morning, how I feel, and how I'm going to determine how my day is going to go. Now, what do you mean by that? What it means is that in everything that I do today, I care enough to consider me first. So if you have something that you need me to do for you, and I don't feel like doing it, I'm going to simply say, you know what? I can't do that today. I don't have the capacity to do it today. Or today's not a good day. You contacted me at the last minute. Let's try for next week. So when I say I only care about me, I care about my mental health and my well-being first above anybody else's as I travel through my day. Because that very thought process will allow you the capability to be able to take ownership for how your day is going to go versus how you're going to allow somebody else to change your day. One of the reasons why I don't get on panels on TikTok, which I am about to start getting on the panel because we have this Choose Better thing that's going to be going on. I have the podcast and they have the men that are going to come on and speak on the women's panel after they've gone over the assessment in the book. And it's a series that we're running. And so I feel like I really want to be intentional in that conversation because I think men need to be able to talk. I think that if we're ever to bridge a gap on how men and women interchange and deal with each other, men have to be able to get it completely out. I don't care how long it takes you to get there. I just need you to be able to get there because for me to know you is for me to understand you. And I don't think we take a lot of time hearing men out because we're so frustrated with what the men have done in our lives. I will say that I've never experienced heartache in a relationship. I've never been with a man and had my heart broken. So a lot of those conversations that women have when they're, saying whatever they're saying to a man, I don't relate to that because that was not my situation. My heart was broken by a man, but outside of a relationship, there's childhood trauma and things like that. Or even if you want to use the love of my father, because my biological father was one of the men that actually abused me. That type of love, yes, I have been hurt by. Outside of that, I have not. And so I don't normally situate myself in situations that I cannot relate to, although I may give my opinion on. I don't try to become an expert in that field if I don't relate to it. I believe that people should be able to feel and hold on to those feelings as long as they feel the grieving process is necessary. But I also think that discipline is a big part of having self-respect for choosing yourself and what that's going to look like on a daily basis. And so that's why I asked you the question that I asked you. What does it actually look like? And you gave a good explanation for, what it will look like to you. The last part that I want to go through, because that's the growth. That was the growth section. And the last section that I wanted to go through is not the last section. It's the truth section. I want to go back. You had said something. I can't recall what it is. I'm thinking about it. If it comes to me, I'll bring it up. But this is a question I want to ask you under the truth moment section. What part of yourself are you avoiding fixing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. To be honest, I really don't know. To be honest, I don't know. However, I do feel like it's a mixture of a lot of little things. Um, Not to toot my own horn, I feel like it's something that I kind of tackle a couple years ago. It's understanding other people. I always felt the need that um people was out to harm me, and people intentionally neglected me, which that might have been a factor for a lot of cases. I had to come into a consolidation of what is actually going on, or living outside of delusion and looking inside of reality. But to answer your question directly, at this moment, I really don't know. I can say that it's finances, because the simple fact of, um, I feel personally, I have nothing, I have nothing bad to say against working, but having a job and participating in the system, I'm kind of against it. So in my mind, I'm fighting in between participating in the system and being financially suitable for my family. So I would say it would be that, if anything.
I'm going to say from my observation, one of the things that I feel like you are avoiding is the man that you see in the mirror. And I don't think that you are avoiding looking at him because you feel a certain way. You have allowed other people to make you feel a certain way because they don't understand how you articulate yourself. They don't understand your mind, like what you're trying to get across. I think some people are committed to misunderstanding you because they don't think that you're worth the time. And I think that a lot of the times you present yourself to be the way that you present yourself is because you think that person is better or best received. That's what is worth. One of the things that I want you to do when you walk away from this conversation with this journal, and I do want you to take this full assessment, go all the way through the book, and then I would like you to come back and have a conversation with you about it but I want you to write your answers down exactly how you, first thing that comes to mind, because that's going to be the truth. Anything behind that is fluff. I always tell people when I'm talking to them, it could be a man or a woman, when you are angry with somebody and they blurt out something, the first thing they said is what they really meant. That's what they really meant. They just weren't in a space to say it. Or they were always trying to protect your feelings. But what they initially said out of their mouth before they came back to try to clean it up is what they really meant. That was the truth. Now, you may forgive that and you may say, okay, you didn't mean it, but it's always going to be right here. I'm always going to remember that because that was the truth. Everybody deserves grace to clean it up if they was just really that mad that they didn't mean it. But 9 times out of 10, you hear it again. And that's how you know that it's the truth. So what I'm saying to you is moving forward in relationships, in situationships, in friendships, if you are not ready to be in a relationship, a good thing is this. I'm going to give you a leeway into a relationship in a situationship. I personally think that situationships are only in the minds of women. I don't think situationships really, men even believe in them. Because I think that you guys know all along what your intentions are when you meet a woman, the same way a woman knows when she meets a man. She knows whether or not I would give him some ill, friend zone. She knows it. She knows it. It's no different. Going into a situationship, I would say simply, hey, introduce yourself. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not financially where I want to be. Say all the things off top that they can't say you didn't say. I don't even know if I can be serious right now, but I am looking for a friend. I'm looking for somebody to kick it with from time to time. No strings attached. Somebody who ain't going to get jealous unless you're toxic and you like a little jealousy. Say all of the things. And then sit back and see if that woman chooses you. Because one thing I do know about women, if we're going to give you some play, you could have said all of that, or you could have said none of that. If we've already made up in our mind we're going to give you some play, you're going to get some play.
That's real. That's real. And when you were speaking, you made me thought about something. The way you asked your question, I want you to ask it one more time for me because I wanna insert something into what I said to ask you a question because this is something I do ask myself from time to time. And I want to make sense. I want to see if you can make sense or make sense of it for me. Can you
So
ask your question to me?
what was the question? When I just said, what part of yourself are you avoiding fixing?
Yeah. That question right there. The reason I asked you to ask it again is because part of me wants to live by society or the ethics and the ethics and morals of society push on us. But then again, when I look inside of it, I feel like it's kind of a hindrance to the progression of humans. It's kind of a complex thing. um I haven't really found a mind that's versed to understand the concept of what I'm actually trying to bring forth because it has a lot of working parts to it that if you believe heavily on morals, it will seem like I'll be a fuck. I'm sorry for cussing your platform. It will make me seem like I'm a messed up person.
So I think I get what you're saying. I'm going to shoot it back to you the best of my ability. You're not necessarily, and I'm going to cut through the chase. You're not necessarily a morally aligned person as society sees it. You believe how you believe, and you would want to live your life in the manner in which you believe, but you feel like because society has a certain standards and morals and stuff that it wants everybody to follow, you're being a fake person by living by what societal means and standards are advising you to do.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah. Like we say that we live by morals and principles and ethics of that nature, but however, I don't see people striving to work toward the more ethical or more way for the to do things. In all actuality, I feel like that's how we dumb ourselves down by instilling too much morals inside of ourselves. To be honest, I feel like things should be just. I don't feel like it should be a such thing as good or bad. I mean, I understand that that's how we make our day, but however, I feel like it's also a hindrance. I feel like it should be some kind of revising going on with what's universally moral and what's universally acceptable.
Okay. So how I look at that is this. Sometimes when we have experienced trauma, it puts us in a certain psychosis that it takes you in the mind of a killer, an unaliver, uh, people who can do treacherous things because you know those things have been done to you. That part of you kicks in because you're in fight or flight mode. Sometimes we stay stuck there. For instance, there have been women who, if a man just came in their face because they were raped early in life, they just killed him. That's the instinct that they were in. But that is a form of psychosis. That would be the illusion. Because growing up in life, and let's just take morals and standards out of things, let's just take that out. If how you want to be treated, I'm going to be a rapist today. And if how I want to be treated was going around raping people, then that means I'm expecting people to come and rape me. You see how that train of thought don't really align. Because if there were no morals and no standards in place, people would be doing that without any rules. And who's to say that if it's not right for them to do it to you? If you know how you would feel if a grown man came and held you down, got on top of you, had you pent face down, ramming himself into you from behind, if you knew how that would feel on you and you wouldn't want it done to you, you got to go by some type of code. Because without those morals and those codes and those statutes in place, the entire world will be more fucked up than what it actually already is. And to be honest with you, it's just a thin blanket before it snaps and we really be able to see what it really is.
Yeah,
So it has to
I
be some
definitely
type of
understand.
standards in place. You get what I'm saying? Like, you just can't be, it really ain't about, and I get what you're saying, because I get it. But it really ain't about the morals, the ethics, and the standards. It's about do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And if you want to live like that, because that's what it would be, you got to think about it from that perspective. You got children. And if your children mean something to you, if your woman, your wife that you may have, it means something to you, your mother means something to you, your father, your family members, when we think about things, we cannot just only think of them individualistic from a perspective of how we think, because those things affect other people. And it would be way worse in this world than it is right this minute with this thin veils that's just covering it. If everybody just went out and just did whatever they felt, whatever they thought. And the universe knows that. That's why these things are here. Does that make sense?
I definitely no. It made perfect sense. This a thought that I have in my mind. Like I understand that we're more of the creative. How can I say that? We're more creative than any other species that lives on the sun that's known to man. Besides dolphins or whatever, our sentience, our sentient abilities surpass most all the animals. But I feel like for how can I put it? Like when it comes down to a moral standpoint, I feel that it should be some kind of way that universally we can have a collective understanding, in which they say it is, but I don't see it at the end of the day. But that's just a thought. I get too deep into
There
the
is. The
conversation.
collective understanding is that there should be morals. Because if there were not morals, it'd be worse than what it is. That is the collective understanding.
Hmm. Yeah,
The collective
I
understanding is
get
that
it.
we should have laws in place. These people are
I
crazy.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm saying like why like what I'm trying to understand is most people don't understand it because like okay, my engagement on TikTok, I understand the extremes of it, such as like grape unalive and stuff. I understand the extreme part of it, but like when it comes down to like the more rational uh interpersonal connections,
Example.
okay, like on TikTok, somebody will be pushing their motive of saying that men are X, Y, and Z, right? However, if men is this certain, if men's are this certain type of people that you see on display, wouldn't it be more rational for you to have the more moral standpoint in the situation to not stoop to their level to do the same thing? I understand announcing the things that you want to say. I understand it, but if you putting yourself in the same situation that these men are in, like what is there to talk about? Like this is where I be coming from.
Give me an example. You described what you were trying to say, but give me an example
Yeah.
of that.
Okay. Well, it's this creator on TikTok. There's a platform that I agree with. Um, that most men are predatory and things of that nature. She goes down a long list and a long tangent of how men respond to women. I mean, not respond to women. Act towards women. I understand that part, but I don't understand that the part that she puts herself in a man perspective to do men the same way that men do to women and herself.
So, are you saying that It sounds like what you're saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you go around slapping women, women shouldn't go around slapping men. That doesn't make sense. Why why go after a man for doing the same thing that you're doing?
Right. Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with that? You did it.
We'll never come to a place of where we need to be, because I might be a genuine person that God forbid that I be a man, right? I might be one of the men that not on the side of what she's talking about, but however that I have a phallus, she classified me as that type of person. I understand the potential that I have, that I could do the same things, but if I'm not curating a space to do those things, you cannot classify me to be that type of man.
So basically, what you're saying is you don't like the fact that it is generalized that all men are the same, pretty much.
Um, when it comes to a personal conversation, yes.
Okay. So this is the thing. The majority in every situation has always ruled. If we voted on what you wanted to eat, everybody would say tuna or salmon, turkey or bologna. And if you got 10 hands for tuna, then tuna is what we went with, right? Because the majority rules. If we go to the movies and someone says, okay, we're going to take the black van, we're going to take the white van. The white van got the TV in it, the black van don't have no TV in it. Oh, white van. It's 10 people, 8 people hand is raised. We going with the white van. The majority has ruled. You would accept that. So how come when it comes to the situation of men and you have women from all walks of life, no matter where they are in the world, describing their experiences with men, and now all of a sudden the majority does not rule?
Yeah.
That don't come off a little biased to you because you're a man?
Um, not in the sense of a personal conversation, interpersonal conversation. If it's an interpersonal conversation, I feel like you need to weigh it as such. But in generalities, I understand it. I
Okay.
feel that, you know what I'm saying. I understand it as a general classification. I understand it, but like if we having a personal conversation, and I speak on a personal instance where you may or may not have read me the right or wrong, you know what I'm saying. I feel like you need to weigh things in that order.
Okay, got it. Okay, so there was a little confusion there. I thought you were saying you shouldn't do it at all. In that sense, that's projection, in my opinion. In my opinion, you may show something similar that someone, or you may have said something similar. You may even do something similar. You may even be reminded in a similar way to someone that person has dealt with or whatever the situation is. And so, because most men in those situations that they have dealt with, because it can only be from in a interpersonal situation, it can only be from a perspective of people you have dealt with interpersonally. Generally, that's different. But interpersonally, if I dealt with 10 men and 8 of them turned out to be bad men, in my mind, all men are bad. So when I get to you, which is number 11, you bad. You get what I'm saying? You're guilty by association because you are a man, in other words. So I do agree with you that in an interpersonal relationship, if you don't know me well enough to say what I will and will not do while trying to get to know me, it is not a fair assessment. But
I
if
agree.
I'm doing something that has shown you that I am this person and I'm not just projecting, to what I think it might be, then that would be a fair assessment as well.
I definitely agree. I feel like I understand the safety precaution behind it. I understand it. However, I do feel like we need to weigh in on understanding what vetting really means. This is just something that I used to run like a case study on my older lives when I had my older page, just to see people mindsets. When it comes to the interpersonal conversations, I feel that like when we say that um this person give off this type of vibe, we really basing it off of what's the word dang, hold on, I've had a before, my bad. um we preemptively think about things. We're base thing off preemptive thoughts. So let's say for instance, right, a doctor a doctor will vet a person every time they come in. Just because I had a head cold doesn't mean the doctor can give me some Advil or a leave to soothe this bullet wound that I now have. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like vetting is a process, it's an ongoing thing. So it's the same thing. I said that to say this. I feel like in those intra personal conversations, I feel like we need to vet. And yes, it comes with its wounds throughout the conversation, but I just feel like to get to the better side of the conversation, you have to vet in that order. You have to vet things for what it is.
I believe that you can pay attention to people's patterns, behaviors, and things like that to kind of pre-assess what you may be dealing with, and if it's similar to something that you have dealt with in the past. But to vet overall, I don't think is possible. And I'm going to tell you why. Because vetting is continual, just like you said. And if I've been dating this man for 3 months, even for a year, that's not a lifetime. I don't know how he handles marriage. I don't know how he handles death. I don't know how he is when he's upset and angry. I don't know how he is when he loses his job. Um, I don't know how he is at the loss of a child. There are certain things you will never be able to vet until you are actually in the moment of doing them. And so that's why I kind of think that choosing better and vetting is a form of manipulation. I
You
think
said
you can
vetting.
pay attention. I think vetting and choosing better, the saying you need to vet better and you need to choose better, I think those are forms of manipulation. Because that lady who just got whose husband just got arrested for drugging her and having 75 men come into the house and rape her and film it, I can almost guarantee you she thought she vetted him, and she couldn't have seen that coming. You cannot determine how I'm going to act when I go through menopause if you met me at 32 and I'm not going through menopause. I'm going through menopause right now, and I can tell you right now, I am not the same woman at 32 that I'm going to be at 52 in a couple of months. We're not the same person. Before I got diagnosed with breast cancer twice, I wasn't the same person. So people grow. They go through things that challenge their faith. They go through things that make them question God if they're spiritual. There's no way to vet somebody's behavior for the rest of their life off of a meeting.
I agree with
There's
that.
no way to choose better because people change every day. You could be a great person today. People can say, oh my God, he was such a good person. And then here on the news tomorrow, he done snap and kill his whole entire family. There is no way to vet a psychosis snap. There's no way to say that was ever going to happen when sometimes bipolar only set in at certain ages at times. Sometimes autism kicks in at this age. What's the multiple sclerosis comes. There's no way to vet people for real. I wish people would stop saying, you got to better choose better. You got to vet better. It ain't no way to do it.
Can I
All
ask you
you can
something?
do, absolutely.
I feel that when it comes to vetting and choose better, I feel like as a collective, we look at it in a wrong sense, right? Like I think we put all our eggs in the basket for that tool. I think once we understand that it's just a tool itself,
Mhm.
I understand that we'll be able to see the conjoining factors between the two, right? Like choosing better and vetting better, right? Let's take this instance, right? Well, you decided to date somebody that was broke. This is the first relationship. You vetting that situation, finding out that he's not the person who he is one thing. This you vetting. Choosing better would be finding somebody that's more of a more up on the hierarchy than him. So you did choose better, but we're not giving each other room enough to understand that things happen. it's not a all like those tools are just tools. They're not the end all be all when it comes to finding someone. They're just tools and it's just that. Once we find out and understand that they're just that, I feel like we'll be able to we'll go our way into finding somebody that's good for that moment.
I do agree that there are tools, but when it comes to choosing better, I don't think a person, if I'm even to use the word choose better, I don't think a person can choose better until they've already gone through something to know that it's better. I'm gonna be honest. The only way to choose better is to have a bad experience so that you'll know this ain't what you want. I got to do better than this. But starting out, there's no way to do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think I think the only way that would come into play is if I married a drug dealer and now I'm married to a CEO. That would be choosing better. I was with this drug dealer. He took me down take me through there. He took me through there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I went to jail. I had a couple of kids. I got out. I'm on a straight and narrow now. I'm going to work. I meet a CEO. I'm married. This man owns this. That he's taking care. I don't got to work no more. That would be choosing better. If I had to use choose better in a scenario to say where I think it would actually work, would be to have already gone through something and then choose a better partner next time around because now you know what you're not gonna put up. That is the only way, in my opinion, people can choose that. From the jump, it's a Russian roulette. You're gonna hit or miss. It just is what it is.
I agree with that. I feel that it's one of those things, right? It's just like your first sexual encounter, right?
Mhm.
We really don't know what we will be doing initially, right? But however, it's the growing pains that actually shapes us. It shapes our reality to know what we like and what we dislike. So I agree with you. I feel like it's just one of those things, and I do feel like it's an exception to the rule when you actually think about it. But however, I do feel like it's just one of those things that you'll have to pick up and use accordingly.
I think that when you are more self-aware, you are able to see certain things because you know who you are. And that's why I said you have to choose yourself first. If you do that assessment, find out what your flaws and everything are that you have to work on, things that you need to work on, put yourself to work and work on those things. I do think that you would be able to choose a better partner in that sense of vetting, because now you're weeding out the things that don't align with what you align with, psychology, whether or not you want to be married, whether or not you want to be someone who has children. Do you want to be a vegan? Are you somebody who wants to eat meat? Like, those are things I think you can actually vet. He likes the opera. I don't. He likes sports. I don't. I think those are things that you can truly vet in this book that you can apply to relationships in your life to kind of help you choose the right partner in the beginning, because you're weaning out all of the things that you don't like. I think that's another way that you can possibly get into a scenario of being able to choose better. But without knowing who you are, you're not going to be able to choose better, because you're not probably not even better than what you're trying to choose. And a lot of us aren't. Let's be real. Some of us, you're not even on the same street that people on. You're not even a chapter in the same book that they're reading. Yet here you are in my story. I don't understand. So you also have to
Huh.
look at those things as well.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that. But I do want to go back on something I said. Um, I want to compare timelines, right? Um, if I was in community with the people that I am now versus when I first came out of high school, I feel like I could have vetted and chose better because more of the conversations are more digestible and they're more digestible now to understand, right? Like back then, I sold myself short because I didn't understand because of the poverty level of the state that I'm in, right? So now that I'm in community to understand, it's just not about sex. It's not just about getting money. You have to be financially astute to the point of knowing exactly what you want. I feel like you can vet better because it, like you said, not to call out what you said, but it made me understand something. Like I kind of disagree that you have to go through something because I can trial myself by what you went through. Knowing that social media is as vast as it is now, I can see the things that people went through and say like, damn, I don't want to go through that, because I do see it in real time that, like on Franklin Saint's page, I see a lot of people, I call them bougies. I see a lot of the bougies saying that I don't want to have kids before I'm married. I don't deal with this type of people. I didn't understand it. I mean, I ain't gonna say I didn't understand. I knew that, but I thought it was acceptable back then versus now. So I kind of disagree with it. You can kind of try yourself with to land at this. I feel like you can try yourself by your peers to vet the situation.
I think in a way you can definitely. That's how you choose your friend group a lot of the times. But I think in a lot of ways, we're not even really seeing our peers as who they really are because they pretending to. Let's be real.
That's
I
true.
don't really parallel my life off of anybody else's life. I only really care about how I see me. I'm not going to into any situation trying to keep up with you because it ain't about you. At the end of the day, I go home to me. I got to look at me. I'm not looking at you. I'm not with your husband. I don't know who's in your house. So why am I trying to worry about what you doing and parallel my life off of you? I have to be realistic as to what I can do and how I can live in my life. So I feel like yes, you can trial and error yourself with your peer group because I do believe birds of a feather flock together. I'm a firm believer of that. Because I'm not hanging around with nobody who's not on the intellectual level that I'm on. I'm not hanging with them too tough. Because if I'm trying to have a conversation, I got to break it all the way down for you to really, really understand. And by the time I did all that, I can't even have the conversation because I didn't spend half the day trying to explain to you what I was really trying to say that you weren't getting. And to me, that's just too frustrating because frustrating for me because I just would really tell you what I'm really trying to say versus trying to have to keep giving it to you like that. And so I do believe that birds of a feather flock together. And sometimes you don't know your limits or your capabilities until you step outside the environment that you're actually in. But I'm so glad that you had this conversation with me. I'm gonna give an affirmation and see if you have any closing words, and then I'm gonna tell everybody about the book, and then I have to close. My affirmation for today is I choose to see myself clearly without excuses, without illusion. I release the need to chase what does not choose me. I release the habit of choosing from anything. I am becoming the standard I see. I'm in aligning with peace, not potential. And today I choose better because I have chosen myself. Do you have any closing remarks today?
Yes, I want to firstly thank you for allowing me in your space and energy to engage in this intellectual conversation, and I appreciate you for seeing me in a better space than most people do, and I'm hoping that it'll be more to come.
Absolutely. I want to bring you back to the round table now. It's going to be a mixture of men and women. I just want you to be ready like you were today. I think you did really good today.
Thank
Handled
you.
yourself well. Okay, my closing remarks is that the mirror doesn't lie, and neither do your patterns. But this isn't about shame. This is about power. Because the moment you become aware is the moment you become responsible for choosing differently. And that's where your life changes. The journal that we were speaking from today is called Choose Better, the 90 Days Self-Dating Journal Campaign, written by myself, Ty Holly Love, and the HerPsychology series. I would like to thank you again for tuning in today. I am the Redhead, signing off.
Thank you.